Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Troy Rydman, CIO and CISO at Packsize. Troy, welcome to the show.
Well, great to be here. Thanks, Matthew.
Oh, thank you. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where Cyberlinks comes in. We've partnered with the best companies in the world to be able to provide our clients with the best solutions at the best prices. So whether it's managed SIEM, SOC, EDR, MDR, XDR, you name it, we'll help you find the best solution at the best price. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Troy, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Packsize and your role there as CIO and CISO?
Yeah, no, happy to. So Packsize is a very interesting company. Our primary focus is around technology and manufacturing. And so we focus on automation and right-sized packaging. So if you look at it from, people who get packages sent to them from various, different online orders, you may get like a small toothbrush in a giant box. We help our customers, fit that box to the size of the product. So it helps with carbon emissions, at the same time, sustainability effort, and saves our customers a ton of money in cardboard costs and shipping costs, and things of that nature. And so it's kind of what we're focused on right now. And so even though we primarily focus in paper, we like to call ourselves a technology company and helping our customers reach their technology needs through automation.
I love it. No, it's super cool. I mean, when you look at your website and you see these, these packaging machines, it's awesome. And you look, you're like, a lot goes into that. And then you think,
Yeah.
I can't help but think, who are your primary clients? I mean, is this something where you guys are in it at Amazon and you've got a bunch of machines there, or who's your primary clients?
Yeah, we have some really big names. Our primary one is, if you look at it, is Walmart. So any online order you guys make from Walmart, it comes in one of our boxes. And so we right size our boxes in these giant automation warehouses that Walmart puts together. It's super impressive. And it's incredible to watching some of our customers like Walmart taking such an interest, not only in automating, getting packages out to the customers as soon as possible, but also taking care of the environment, making sure that they're reducing their carbon emissions, making sure that they're not sending undue waste to, their customers, and making sure that everyone has a great experience. And so it's really interesting.
Yeah. Why do you think Amazon's not doing the same? Because I think we've all gotten the toothbrush in the 6 foot by 4 foot box, and you're like, really?
Yeah, I know, it's interesting. So I came from AWS as one of my previous roles before working here at Packsize, and so part of the Amazon industry, as you would say. I think it's interesting. I think Amazon has much more of a bespoke model where individual shipping warehouses almost work independently of each other, right? And so there's a larger conglomerate, but they're trying to find ways of getting products out to customers, focusing on customer service quicker and faster, and making sure that customers have a good experience. They're not so much focused on right-sized packaging or other things. Now, I think Amazon is definitely getting there. Like, we've had conversations. They're working on other things with those in that field as well. So I think they're looking at their own brands of technology. Amazon tends to develop things in-house first, and a lot of what they do. And so if I had to guess, I would say that they're probably working on something similar internally before they go out and buy something, right? And so I would say that sooner or later, Amazon will probably get on the train, and you'll probably start seeing more right-sized packaging for their products as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's very on brand for them. I think that's exactly right. So that makes perfect sense. So let's dive in a little bit, because I don't know how far you want to go down the the product rabbit hole, but I think it's really cool. It's a really neat thing. You don't often hear about it. You don't really think about it that often. You just push a button and a day or two later, packages start showing up at your door. And so you don't really think about what goes into it. But I think for a lot of people, it would be kind of fun to kind of go through it. Like, how does that even work? Right. Because just kind of the process of it, because it's really fascinating.
Yeah, so I would say for one of our products that we offer, typically how it comes in is we offer a machine that takes in cardboard, basically what we refer to as a Z fold. So if you look at cardboard folded in over on itself on a pallet, this is fed into our machines, and then our machines will take a dimension. And we have a couple of ways of doing it. We can either scan a product to determine the dimensions, or we can say our customers need X number of one type of box. And so one machine can take anywhere from one to up to 4 or 5 different cardboard sizes or right size them. So then you go to cut it, and we can put it through a machine. We can actually print on it a picture if we want to, and then it makes the cuts, the folds, goes to the machine. It automatically turns it, glues the bottom on, and folds the flaps down. And so when you get sent out, we can actually slap labels on it too, such as a shipping label, an internal labeling, anything like that. And then it sends it through, typically for our larger customers, through an automation platform. So it picks up on a conveyance system, which then gets sent to a picker station, which then a box shows up. They know exactly what product's going in it. They throw it in, and then it moves on to a taping machine that tapes it and sends it right to the truck. And so, you get these boxes, and it's amazing because not only are you saving cardboard, but you think about it from a carbon emission standpoint. Shipping is expensive. It's an expensive industry, and if you're right sizing your packages, you can tend to fit about a fourth to a third more products in an individual truck if you're taking it into play. And so a lot of our larger customers are automating this entire process. And it's interesting to see because a lot of people think, that we're a paper company, but when you go in and look at these giant automation systems that are going through at a conveyance, like this is how e-commerce is working. This is capitalism at its finest, right? Like shipping out products to customers and automating the entire process to make it cheaper for the consumer as well as for the company that's going through it. So very interesting market.
Super cool. And so I gotta ask, where does AI fit into this? Is this something where it's a natural fit for you guys, or it's so kind of programmed, everything is so programmed and predefined that there's not really a lot of space for it currently, but something you're looking at in the future?
Yeah, if we didn't talk about AI, we're not up on the latest trends. And so,
What would we be doing? What are we
yeah,
even doing here?
exactly. Exactly. No, I think it's something we're just initially getting into. So some use cases we're looking at from an AI, if you send a product down a conveyance, line, how do you scan it and identify this item? Is there a liquid in it? Is it fragile? Does it contain glass products? Can it be folded in on itself like cloth material, clothing, for example? Is it a perishable item? Things of this nature. Having AI identify these products for our customers can often determine, does the packaging need some type of keep cold, ice pad in it? Can you fold the box in over itself or put it in an envelope if it's clothing? Can you actually not include a box at all and put it into an envelope type system, right? And deliver it if there's no type of temperature regulation that needs to occur. If it's a perishable good, how do you make sure that that actually doesn't get sent into a box into the mail, but instead shipped to a local store for someone to actually come in and pick it up to make sure that's sent in a refrigerated truck or something of that fashion, right? And so some of the things we're getting on is how do we help our customers further through this by doing additional analysis on helping them identify products that they're looking to package and then providing our customers with the right solution for it, to ensure that whenever the consumers get it, comes in the right state, in the right condition, those conditions are met, and then making sure that there's a good experience across the board. And so just looking into it, like I said, products we don't offer, but our customers are always looking to expand these spaces, and AI, I think, is a wonderful use case for identifying these types of products for us.
Yeah. Do you ever see that show, Silicon Valley?
Oh yeah.
It reminds me of Jin Yang's hot dog, not hot dog app.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
That's
so
exactly right. A little bit more
perishable, not perishable.
complicated, but yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's super cool. No, I think that's fantastic. And well, as long as we're on the topic of AI, not Jin Yang, but on the topic of AI, where do you see it? I think, for a lot of people, it's kind of drinking from the fire hose. Everything is kind of coming at them, really, really fast. AI is advancing. I think everything. It's accelerating every industry, very quickly. And how do you see that happening there, in the packaging, or is this more, I mean, obviously as CIO and CISO, it affects you, rather profoundly. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say in my field specifically, or where I'm at from a packaging and manufacturing company, I've come from a finance background where having AI systems deal with highly regulated information adds a whole unique set of challenges, right? How are you making sure you're training data on properly sanitized information? How are you making sure you catch it when data isn't ingested that way? How do you make sure your LMs are built on approved information? And then when you query the systems, how do you make sure you're returning the right data to the right people, right? And so, but being in where I'm at, we don't collect any type of PII data, which is incredibly fortunate for
Yeah.
me and for the company,
Yeah.
specifically since we're in the European market from a data regulation standpoint. But I think what I would expect, as coming to this position, is our customers are going to expect here, I think in the next, anywhere from 1 to 5 years, that AI is built into almost every product they buy in some fashion or form, right? Working at AWS, we helped, I was overseeing security risk and compliance for some of our strategic accounts at AWS from professional services. So these are Fortune 50 companies I was working with, right? And they were deploying individual AI products into their environments. And then we saw a lot of them rip them out. They're like, these are overly expensive. What are we getting on a return basis? Shouldn't this be baked into our products anyways? Like when we buy something, shouldn't this be a part of it? And I think that's where the industry is going to head, right? Like it's going to be, one of those things where you expect there to be an app for it on your phone, not to have to custom create one. Same with AI. You expect AI to be built into your products. And so I think that's going to be the same for our customers or anyone, right? Like they're going to expect to have some type of AI interaction where it's helping them either navigate the UI, the product, the right sizing processes, identifying product streams. I think it's going to play a huge role.
Yeah.
In my industry and most industries.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting point that you make about people kind of expecting it to be baked in because I think there's a real challenge there. If you're the developer coming up with this idea and you're like, hey, you know what? I've got this great idea. I'd like, for people to be able to just point their phone at the computer and it be able to identify, oh, hey, I see that email you're looking at. That's clearly a scam. Go ahead and delete that, right? Or, maybe able to listen into a phone call and be like, yeah, they're clearly that is clearly not Microsoft support calling you. You need to hang up, right?
Yeah.
And then the problem being that while that's a great idea, um, you know, that's where Apple and Google are just going to come right in and be like, yeah, that should be baked right in. So we're going to build those ourselves. So I see that being a real challenge for the startup community where things are expected to be baked in, but do you build it and think, well, you know what, Apple's going to come and they're just going to do this, right? Because it makes sense. It's not that it's not that hard, but right, the AI's there. We're just building on top of the model, and we do these few things. Apple could easily come and take this, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I think that becomes a real challenge, for the developers. Mind you, there's going to be like 10,000, startups, 100 of them are going to succeed, or maybe there'll be 50,000, 100 of those are going
Exactly.
to succeed. And you probably, 1,000 of those, Apple and Google and the likes are going to integrate, just take that idea, be like, yep, that's great. It would take us nothing to build it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Am I missing something?
Yeah, no, I think you're right on. So it was interesting, being in the different industries I have been in, whether it's been fintech or whether it was at AWS, the conversations around generative AI have been in the market longer than products like ChatGPT have been around, right? Like these were more niched. It wasn't until ChatGPT really kind of landed where people saw the benefit and value, and then you have vendors that are coming in now trying to build unique products to this. And a lot of the hype around Gen AI is being generated by companies who are making these solutions, right? They want it to be a big deal. They want it to like everyone has to have a solution or multiple solutions to solve for this, right? But I think what you're going to see eventually is that, yeah, you're going to have products like Microsoft, which already uses Copilot built into, its services. You're going to find Apple and Amazon have their own versions, obviously, which they already do. You're going to find some of these larger ones where, the top 50 companies, which services you're already interacting with, they're going to provide these basic needs. Same with security solutions or IT solutions. You look at a security solution, you're not looking for a specific solution that's generated by a biased and then does security. You're looking for a security solution that has Gen AI built into it that's offering, an augment to its service. And so
Yeah.
if you're looking at these top solutions and they're not leveraging some type of AI assistant or tool, you're probably not going to look at it. So you're going to find that a lot of these larger companies are going to start adopting AI strategies. And so it's going to be really hard for these startups, which have niche solutions completely focused on Gen AI, versus competing with these companies who have 10 to 15 years of security R&D or technology R&D who've then baked it into their products, right? And so,
I love that. Well, I'd like to explore that because you look at things like CrowdStrike and Sentinel One on the security side. You've got both of these, major players in the EDR, XDR space. Both of them doing exactly as you're saying. You add AI, so they've got their, they're working on their AI SIM solutions. Which I think if I'm a SIM, a SOC SIM, provider, I'm a little worried, right? Because now if CrowdStrike and Sentinel One have got, this AI SIM that ingests not only the EDR, data, but now you can tie in your firewalls and whatever else you want to, wherever you else you want data to be ingested from, going straight there and using AI to kind of sift through these things. Not to say there's not a benefit, but to
yeah.
having cybersecurity professionals looking through it, but you could then hire that cybersecurity professional, or I'm sure Sentinel One and CrowdStrike will offer those things, or other people will be able to be like, yeah, we'll provide that that human layer for you. But to your point, having that baked right in, how do the other people compete when it's like, oh yeah, I mean, sure, you could go with somebody else, but I mean, Sentinel One and CrowdStrike, they've got it baked right in. So they're using
Yeah.
AI in their ADR. They're using AI, to provide to power a SOC SIM solution, a SOC SIM source solution. So it's like, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
hard one to beat.
It is a hard one to beat. Like I just got an email not too long from one of our major CRM products that we're using inside the organization. They say, "Hey, we just now released an AI function for the solution free of charge. Like you can now go in and adopt it." Now, if you're looking at these guys, it's not cheap to develop an AI solution. They obviously put investment in it, but what they're trying to do is knock out some of the competition or some of the concerns that their customer has by saying, "Well, if I need a Gen AI tool and I'm having to pay for it, why not do a whole additional RFP to go out there and try to evaluate if I still need the solution or not?"
Yeah.
But when they just throw it at you and say, "Hey, it's now baked into part of the product. It's now an expectation we understand that you realize you need, and now we're going to provide it to you," it shuts down those conversations before they even start, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
No, that's really that's a great example. I mean, we use HubSpot, and they did the exact same thing. I don't know how many months ago, where they just kind of like, here you go, boom, we're doing this, so you can use it for, you've got your AI baked right in there, so you can use it to help with content creation or asking questions or whatever. But nice that they just baked it right in, and here you go. So I think that, to your point, kind of sets the standard. Okay, the gauntlet has been dropped. Okay, now if you're a CRM, you've kind of got to include that AI assistance, and it'll be interesting to see, where that goes, because there's obviously a whole world of things that you can do with AI in conjunction with your CRM that I don't, HubSpot's, and I may be wrong. I think it's very early days for them, and that's
yeah,
not fully being leveraged there. So I'm kind of curious on the CRM that they're rolling out. Is this more on the, you probably just saw it earlier today, but let's explore this, right? Is this something where it seems like it's just an initial offering, or are they really going heavy and this was the future of CRM?
no, I think in this case, where you're looking at our sales group using the CRM product to generate leads and focus on customers, is the AI solution really around augmenting the data that we have in our CRMs, right? And so as you put customer information in there, the solution now looks to say, you put customer X into the machine, you put values in here. We're actually going to cross-reference those values with what we find online and then make suggestions that maybe you have some information wrong or that you're missing some data points that may be valuable to you,
Nice.
and we'll help augment those data points, which is, I mean, data first and foremost is where companies make money, right? If it's not for their data, first and foremost, it's, that's their key generation. And so augmenting data to make sure it's accurate, it's correct, and you put a lot more quality control around it, it's only going to add benefit in the long run, right? And so it was a no-brainer for us to be like, well, this makes sense. Like we should start, enabling this, see how well it works. Obviously, we don't want, it'd be populating with bad information, but sometimes Gen AI solutions, depending on how good they're
Right.
baked in, could do. But
Sure.
yeah, like why not validate it? And if it works great, like leverage it for the full extent of what you can get it for. And so and it's interesting too, because now there's companies out there offering to do just that one little niche thing that this company said we're going to give it to you for free, offering as a separate side solution. We'll help clean up your data for you. And the way we do that is we'll scan your data stores and make sure like, and so you just take an entire new product suite off of where I don't have to pay for cost, upkeep, licensing, managing this solution. And it's just now baked into an existing one with no additional cost. And so it sucks for the companies out there creating these solutions, but at the same time,
Yeah.
as the consumer, love it, right? And so you want to see this type of stuff.
No, 100%. And I think that's what's really, really fascinating about this is, we saw a big kind of consolidation, just going back, if you look back to when the the motorized vehicle, the car, the automobile came to be, there were hundreds of, I think it was like 150 different automobile manufacturers. And then within a number of years, it was down to just the major players that we now know today, the GMs, the Fords, then and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so, okay, great. And so it consolidated. We saw the same thing happen with the advent of the internet, the dot-com, bubble. Hundreds, if not thousands of these startups, and same kind of deal. The marketplace kind of sifted through, and the strong survived, right? But I think what's really fascinating, and that was, the internet was obviously, many times larger, than cars, and AI is going to be many times larger than the internet. And so I think we're going to see, just so many thousands of these startups. But I think this is a really interesting and kind of fascinating, aspect to it that I haven't heard anybody really talking about yet. And that it is that being baked in, the larger players, this may tend to create more monopolies, at the end of the day. They're going to be a lot stronger and more competitive. Like let's say the HubSpots that integrate it, they're already a big company, and now boom, they integrate this piece. Well, crap, all the little, guys who are like, oh, we can do this. We can filter your data. We can sift it. We can,
Yeah.
normalize whatever. Great. Thanks, but HubSpot's doing that for me for free. It makes me wonder, not that that's a bad thing, but where does that shift? Where are those young developers, where do they move to? If that's the danger zone, if it's you've got a great idea for an app, and Apple is just going to integrate it into the OS. Oh crap. Okay, well, yeah, it makes sense that they would. Same with HubSpot for your CRMs. Um, where does it shift? I don't know
Yeah.
right?
Well, I would say from my point of view, where you're going to see a shift is you're going to start finding some of the larger players in this area consuming more and more of the talent from the market to try to stay competitive above the big ones, right? So if you look at some of the three biggest tech giants you got in the world, right? So you have, Amazon, Microsoft, you have Google, they're all competing for their AI solutions. None of them are saying, well, we hired a bunch of AI professionals, and now we're just developing and we're going to, create a subset of solutions. No, they're all going hamstring on hiring as many of these people as they still can, because they understand that anytime they're not staying innovative, they're falling behind. And so if you're not climbing, you're going down. So you may see a bigger impact to some of these small startups. And I do think, like with most startups, you get in any type of tech boom, where you see virtualization, containerization, and like all these other, innovative technologies before. You're going to see a few startups survive. They may even get bought out, but you're still going to see the giant players in the area still continuing to invest, because if you're not moving up, you're moving down, right? And so I think what you're going to see is that they're going to continue to be innovative, and they're going to continue to consume these resources. So it may just be a juggle around. I still think you'll see an increase in tech needs. So these developers who are developing AI probably will just have not as many options of people to go work for, but maybe just as many jobs, right? And so it'll be an interesting market to see.
Think it will be
Yeah.
interesting because at the same time, you see, at least in the interim, during this period, you see the larger companies leveraging, and most companies leveraging AI
Yeah.
when it comes to developers, to where now one developer is as productive as 10 used to be. When all you could do is, go to, Google and search for your stuff, or GitHub and search for your code. Now you have Chat GPT and Grok and and Gemini able to really help you generate your code, it's check your code and come up with solutions a whole lot faster. So a lot of them are going from you know 77 developers down to seven because those
Yep.
seven are just as productive. And I think Meta's initial kind of knee-jerk reaction to it was that's what we're doing. We're gonna stop hiring, the initial, we're gonna stop hiring level one, developers, and we're gonna go with okay, all well and good. You're gonna use AI, but I think that's short-lived, and that may be where you're going with this is that at some point that doesn't play out properly, right? You've got that now. You have no junior developers coming up. So what? When your senior developers who are using AI are like, I'm out of here. Then what? Right? Where are you left with if you've only got a handful of senior developers and not an army behind them moving up?
Yeah, well, I think like even coming from like AWS, it was interesting because part of our my previous roles in leading in professional services is we would go in, help customers implement these AI technologies to augment fields such as development, right? They're like, hey, can we downsize our development teams by 80 to 90% by implementing AI tools? And of course, our salespeople would be more than happy to tell them, sure, you can do whatever you want, just buy the product and we'll put it in. But when you actually get down to the implementation, it changes not the need for developers, but the way that our developers actually develop applications. And so, for instance, you can tell a Gen AI application to say, develop me code to do X and it will develop it. But I'll give you a great example. It was like we were working with one of our customers and they're like, we no longer need a security, identity, and access management, expertise because we're going to use generative AI. Create all our infrastructure as code, identity and access management policies, and no problem. And so we were going through it and looking at it with them. And what they didn't find out is in a lot of cases, even though built the policies to do infrastructure as code deployment, because they built so many of them doing spot checks, we found out that they were giving permissions, for everything to any user that was added in there. It would have been a massive security incident
Yeah.
because the Gen AI model, based on how you're querying it, asking it questions, what you're looking for specifically, understanding the technology, understanding how to speak to it around as a programmer would, it's like AI, as good as it is, it's as dumb as a box of rocks. It's looking for you to exactly tell it what you need, and it's going
Yeah.
to give you exactly what you asked for, right? And so um, it would have been a disaster for these people. And then they understood, well, actually, we can't lay off our expertise because we actually need the identity and access management specialist to ask the Gen AI solution questions around how to generate infrastructure and then validate what's coming out of it. I still think we see that today. Like, in very few cases do I see companies saying we're going to fire 50% of our developers because we have this solution. No, what it is they can probably develop code faster, but they still need someone who understands development to ask it the right questions and to validate the results to make sure it still has the right outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I think any company right now that thinks that they can use a generative tool to downsize their DevOps probably has another thing coming. There are probably some efficiency earns for sure, and maybe that can cause one or two downsizing in headcount. But outside of that, you still need those experts, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that's a really good point. And we've seen it with all other technology, right? I mean, anytime technology comes into an industry to whatever it is, we see and everybody's like, oh no, it's going to take our job. It may replace some jobs, but it creates more jobs in its wake,
Yeah.
right? In that, oh, great, now we need whatever it is. Computers come in and oh no, the typing pool is going to go away. I mean, look at what happened with you used to have people plugging in, telephones at operators plugging in. Oh no, as we got real networking, technology, yes, all those jobs went away. And they got, it's not like those people died and, they moved on to other
Oh,
jobs at the telephone company. And so I think it ends up creating far more jobs. And that's what we've seen with all technology. I think people are a little afraid of what that looks like. I think it's interesting because to your point, you're going to still need all those developers. They're going to be faster and better. And in this world we're used to a pace. I mean, you look at our grandparents, the pace of life was so much slower than our parents was faster. Ours is fast, and it just keeps getting faster and faster. And now with AI, everything is moving, many times faster than it ever did. And so what you're going to have is, to your point of having developers who now need to move, who are expected to move very quickly and smartly because they have AI kind of powering them and assisting them to do it. It's no longer like, oh, well, AI is just going to answer the phones, make all the calls, do all the things, pack all the products, ship them out, send it, and do it. We're a very long way off from having, from that happening. And that's a whole nother world. And I think that's what people, get confused. And I think there's debate currently as to whether that future is realistic, that we'd get to that point of having that, general artificial intelligence. Is right now with generative, it makes sense. We can see it. It's seeing
Yeah.
patterns. It's not true intelligence where it's really thinking, and that is still a huge jump where it can make people think, oh, it's just right there. Like yeah, we've come a long
Yeah.
way. There's a lot to be gained from pattern recognition, but that is a whole, just because you can identify the difference between, a ball and a dog doesn't mean that you suddenly, understand, the difference. And I think that's really I think that's where people are kind of, I think, worried about the future, but I
Yeah.
think it's a long way off.
Well, I was talking to someone in the automotive industry, and it's interesting you say this. And I'll take Toyota as an example. So Toyota was, used to be rated one of the highest in the JD Power and Associates ratings for quality control and everything else, right? And one of the first things they did is they created this process around the assembly line where anyone that was developing and saw an issue could pull an end-on cord and stop production, call out the quality control issue, and then go ahead and fix the car, right? And it was people in the conveyance. And then they put in robotic systems where then it was updating it in conveyance. And so as you look at like Toyota went from quality control where other people weren't, and then everyone else went to quality control, and now they're using full robotics. Toyota hires more people today than they did back when they had assembly lines. Like they're creating more products, they're doing more things. And now, if you look at it from a consumer standpoint, JD Power and Associates, if you look at like the quality of cars back from a report even 10 years ago, you'll find great disparities between, different manufacturing cars. Now, if you look at it, there's small variances around the quality of cars. And so what it's done is, you introduce robotics, quality control, automation, you get less deficiencies, less issues. People start automating things, and then it creates not less, but more jobs, more quality control, better consumer products. And no one's hurting in the automotive industry from saying that there's not enough, like they're hiring more and more jobs,
Yeah.
just not people that need to put on doors by themselves, but maintaining robotics, marketing, sales, because they can now build more cars faster, things to that nature. So it's an interesting dynamic. And I think, generative AI is going to be something similar, right? Where we're seeing just a shift in where the help is needed.
Yep. No, I think that is a fantastic analogy, and not even analogy. That's a great example of
Yeah.
of really how the technology shifts the jobs, doesn't eliminate them, but it ends up creating more jobs. And I think we need to hear more of that in the media, instead of the fear mongering of, you're all going to be homeless. Yeah, like, really? I mean, I get it. There's a lot of pressure since the 24-hour
Yep.
news cycle, but come on, people. Like, if we could just talk about something other than, Trump and Elon Musk, and the robots are going to take your jobs, I think people would be,
Amen.
yeah,
Yeah.
the anxiety level would be down a little bit more. People would be like, yeah, I still do have a job. You do. And there's going to be more to come. But you see it, things like, truck driving, right? I mean, at some point, they're going to be, driving themselves. So there's going to be a time where it's going to be augmented, and the truck, which is going to be fantastic. A human in a truck watching, just supervising the truck. I think we're all looking forward to that day. Because it's a dangerous proposition. I think
Oh, yeah.
most people have probably seen a truck wipe out a car at some point in their life, and it is not a pretty sight. And so that'll be really great. It'll be safer, it'll be better. And then at some point, that human's not going to be needed there, but will be able to be used, someplace else, right? So I think you've laid out some really good examples of how it's really going to help boost the economy, not destroy it. And yeah, I just wish people would stop fearing it so much. But when that's all you hear is it's going to take your job, what are you
Yeah. I
supposed to
mean,
think?
News is in business not to make people feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Disconcerting news is what draws people in, right? And so, yeah, I mean, those of us in the industry, we're seeing the changes for better, right? Like we're finding out that these things are making our lives easier, and at the same time, great opportunities are coming. You know, I guess the days when robots do come after us and kill us, I guess we'll bow down to our robot overlords at that point. But until then, like I think we can embrace the great technology changes that are occurring in technology advancements. Like it's exciting, not scary, right?
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is, and I think that is an excellent point, and arguably perhaps the highest note that we could possibly wrap this up on. I don't think we could end on a higher note. So I love that. And but Troy, before we go, because it's been great. I love this conversation. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and more about Pack Size?
Yeah, you can find me in at LinkedIn. My profile is just the LinkedIn address with Troy Rydman, all one word, Rydman, and Packsize at packsize.com. Hit me up if you want to know more about it. Reach out as well. I'm happy to connect.
Awesome, Troy. Thanks so much for coming on. Until next time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Matthew.
You got it.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.